Microsoft is, without a shadow of a doubt, one of the biggest players when it comes to operating systems for personal computers. They've been in the business for more than 30 years, and have had many successes from making and selling their operating system, Microsoft Windows. While much is known about Microsoft, not everything is. So with that, I bring you 5 things you didn't know about Microsoft. Many people know Bill Gates as the man who founded Microsoft. But he didn't actually found Microsoft.
What?
Okay, what I mean to say is, Bill Gates did not found Microsoft by himself. He actually co-founded it, alongside Paul Allen. Unfortunately, Paul Allen died just 2 months ago, at the age of 65, making Bill Gates the only living founder of Microsoft. As I mentioned before, the operating system Microsoft makes and sells today is Microsoft Windows. But before there was Windows, there was MS-DOS, which was kind of like Windows, 40 years ago. MS-DOS was owned and licensed by Microsoft to computer hardware manufacturers at the time, so that it could run on their products. What many people don't seem to know is that Microsoft didn't actually make MS-DOS. They actually bought the operating system from a smaller company, who named it QDOS. QDOS, however, was not an official product, and was actually a ripoff of Gary Kildall's CP/M, the first ever operating system for PCs. So you could say that Microsoft took an operating system that stole another operating system. Put simply, Microsoft could have stolen their first ever operating system. Ever wanted to become very wealthy and rich in life? Consider joining Microsoft. Many people involved with the company tend to benefit income-wise. As of May 2018, Microsoft has made up to 12,000 millionaires, which is at least $12 billion total. And these numbers are only increasing. Many key people such as co-founder Paul Allen and former CEO Steve Ballmer are both billionaires, as well as Bill Gates, who is now the second richest man on Earth. So, we've talked a lot about Microsoft as a company, but now let's talk about it along with other companies. It's no secret that Microsoft and Apple aren't exactly buddies. I mean, just look at all the money each company has poured into advertising, just to make the other look bad. So it's pretty clear that these two companies are rivals, and it's pretty much always been that way. Well, not always. You see, about 20 years ago, Apple was on the verge of bankruptcy. You heard me correctly, the now trillion-dollar company was in debt. Kinda funny when you think about it. By this point in time, it was clear that Apple was in trouble, and things were only getting worse for them. Apple needed help, and the only company that could, and would, help them, was their biggest rival, Microsoft. Now I won't bore you with a long explanation of how it all happened, so to make a long story short, Microsoft funded Apple, keeping it from bankruptcy, and thus, saving it. Now, a good question to ask here is why Microsoft saved Apple, its worst enemy, from what would have been its demise. Well, Microsoft needed a bit of a competition to show the world that it wasn't an overarching monopoly. And since Apple was Microsoft's only form of competition, Microsoft couldn't let Apple fall. Basically, Microsoft needed Apple. Apple needed Microsoft. Now, I'm going to take a wild guess and say that the phone that you own right now is either running a version of Android, or iOS. These two operating systems are clearly dominant when it comes to mobile operating systems, and there's a little to no chance that you'll ever own a phone running something other than these operating systems. So yeah, Android and iOS are two well-known operating systems. But, would you believe me if I told you that Microsoft Windows served as a mobile OS before Android or iOS? You probably wouldn't, so let me explain. While it's true iOS was released in 2007, and Android a year later, Microsoft actually beat both Apple and Google to the punch with the release of the Pocket PC 2000, in the year 2000. As described in its name, the Pocket PC was a mobile computer. It ran Windows Mobile, Microsoft's mobile OS at the time, and one of the only mobile operating systems released before Android or iOS. Theoretically, Windows Mobile evolved into what is known as Windows Phone, and the mobile OS was continued until 2017, when Microsoft announced its failure, along with the discontinuation of the OS. Anyway, that wraps up my list of 5 things you didn't know about Microsoft. I do hope you enjoyed this episode of TAT, and I hope to see you in the next one.